Hey, Toothers, it's just me. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, which is stupid. Um, yeah, I am starting to feel more like a person again, but my sleep is so screwed up from being sick the last few days that I don't know. I hope it levels off. I'm glad the pain from the COVID is gone. Hopefully, it stays gone. I can't tell. I have other things going on too, which I will not discuss, but I have other pain that is uncomfortable and annoying. But look, it's Columbus Day. We're celebrating Columbus Day again. It's such an insipid holiday. I know that it definitely seems like a lot of the things I'm posting are just me complaining about stuff, and it's starting to bother me. Like I'm trying to find, like, I do want to get back to the longer form stuff that I can really try to get into more of the things that I'm interested in, because it's easy to just complain about the state of things right now, the state of late stage capitalism and the state of our politics, and how horrendous it is that someone as horrible a human being as Trump not only was president but might be president again, and then dictator for life, probably. He just has to get the right amount of sycophants under him, and the genocide in Israel, and just horrible stuff going on all over the place. That I wanted to do something different. I wanted to. I wanted to talk about something other than, look, Columbus was a horrible, horrible person. Brought death, dismemberment, rape, disease, all to get gold and slaves. He brought back slaves. And he disrupted the gold trade from the African Gold Coast to such a degree that it was more profitable for them to start selling off their people as slaves. So the Colombian effect is we could thank this psychopath for revolutionizing the world with slavery. He's not alone, but he's a big impetus for it. Anyway, to have a holiday for this monster is horrific, and a lot of places took the step to say, "Hey, you know what? This is horrible. We should, at the very least, rename it to Indigenous Peoples Day. Try to offer up an opportunity for people to celebrate all the people that were wronged by what Columbus did." And I'm cynical enough to think too little, too late, especially in a country where the first peoples here were, prevalent and then wiped out. Disease, murder. Europeans showed up and was like, "Oh, we want this land, and we're going to kill you to get it." And for hundreds of years, it just still kind of under the boot of the government. Mount Rushmore was a sacred place for a specific tribe. I don't remember. And the government had said that they were going to leave it alone, and then changed their mind and defaced the mountain with the faces that we claim to be excited about. just another slap in the face. Just a history of bullying and horrors plagued upon people that had learned how to live relatively well with each other and with the earth. I'm not saying that they didn't have any kind of tribal conflict, but if you think about it, they didn't have a concept of ownership. It was like land ownership, not until we showed up. They didn't have to consider the idea of being civilized until the Europeans showed up and said, "Oh, you're living your life wrong. You're not living your life the way that God intended." Canada has recently had to grapple with their own brutal harm to their first peoples, to having taken children from their parents to put them in schools to make them more white, right? To be more civilized, not be more savage. And the story gets played out, a lot in media. You think of when I was a kid, we still had cowboys and Indians. It was like a game. And movies from the 50s just reducing the indigenous population to savages who could say how and were otherwise useless. It's very offensive to me as a human being how horrible humanity is to itself, right? Columbus, King Leopold II of Belgium did horrible things in the Congo. Guy was a monster. And I know there's this internet problem, or this idea that if anybody brings up Hitler in an argument, they've lost the argument. But we've got Nazis walking around America right now. The United States has Nazis. So I don't think that rule applies, because it is a real problem. I didn't want to go into all of this. I really didn't. I tried to look up different holidays, different things that First Peoples celebrate. Oh, all right. So listen, there's Indian, Indigenous, and First. There's these different terms for the people that were here before the Europeans showed up and fucked everything over. It's difficult to say Indigenous or Native, only because we know nobody was here for a long time, right? This whole hemisphere was not with people until they crossed the land bridge 14,000 years ago. It's certainly more indigenous than Spanish and the English and that Italian monster coming over, but it's not semantically accurate. So I like the term First Peoples, but it doesn't roll off the tongue. And Indian, I'm trying to remember, because Indian, at the time, India wasn't called India, right? It was like Hindustan or something else, right? God, where was I? I don't even know. So I realize I'm going on about a thing I said I didn't want to go on about, but I'm annoyed because while trying to figure out holidays celebrated by tribes that were in the United States anyway, I found that New Hampshire, I live in New Hampshire, for the four of you who also live in New Hampshire that are listening to me. Surprise, surprise. A law was passed recently, July, that was meant to be for civics classes to teach state regulations and voting laws, right? So to add some detail as to, not for nothing, the other fuckery that Sununu is trying to play with voting registration for a non-problem, just to make it more difficult for people to actually vote. Because, honestly, it does seem that if the modern GOP doesn't rig the voting block, doesn't rig the electoral college, they're not going to win, because their ideas are not popular. And I'm not saying all of them. I think it's so fractured because so much of the mouthpieces that we hear from, they don't have policies. They're playing identity politics. They're playing conspiracy theory. They're not being elected because they want to do something. They're getting elected because they've found a way to rig the system, and they say the things that the extremists in this country want to hear, which is not, as an example, right? I've had a discussion with people about why was Trump such a great president? Oh, well, he taxed China. No, he didn't. What he did was he put tariffs, it's hard to say without teeth, put tariffs on Chinese imports. Now, China doesn't pay that. The companies that import Chinese goods, they pay that. The Americans pay that, right? United States company wants Chinese steel. It shows up. Guess what? They pay China to get the steel. Now that it's here, they have to pay over and above that because Trump said he was going to tax China, which is not at all what happened. That is ridiculous to me as well. But that's not why we're here. Do I even know why we're here? So this law was about, offering some more knowledge to children. Fine. However, Lou D'Alessandro, Democrat, for whatever that's worth anymore, tacked on an amendment to this House bill that requires all school districts and municipalities to use a holiday's statutorily designated title in official communications, publications, and documents. I'm reading an article that I found on Seacoast Online, but it's from the Portsmouth Herald. That means in official communications, right? December 25th must be called Christmas. Are we calling it something else, right? The third Monday in January must be called Martin Luther King Day. We used to call it Civil Rights Day, but that changed. I don't remember when. Was that the year 2000? That was a long time ago. So that one's not a different name. That's not replacing something. And the second Monday in October must be called Columbus Day. According to according to Lou, he was thinking about all holidays, but especially Columbus Day. And again, what holidays went by other names? Let me know if you find one. I don't know. I'm too tired to look it up. But there became a real push to change the name of Columbus Day. It started to become more well known that Columbus was a monster. In fact, if you do a Google search for the oatmeal Columbus Day, yes, that is what I said. I will say it again. The oatmeal Columbus Day, you will get a pretty good breakdown of why Columbus was a horrible monster. Just if you ever forget, just in case you want some light reading about atrocities. It's a good, quick, brief read. It's a web comic that took a day off and said, we're gonna make something really, really important. So, a lot of places started to. I'm not saying the oatmeal kicked this off. I'm just saying that it's the one I could think of. But a lot of places started to replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Look, I kind of thought recently that why aren't we celebrating an actual Indigenous person's holiday, right? But from the reading I've done this morning, it seems like that Indigenous Peoples Day is still a good holiday because it does offer an opportunity to go and seek out Indigenous people and to appreciate those cultures that that the Europeans were unable to wipe off the map as hard as they tried. Now, okay. So here's the thing. The actual history of Columbus Day becoming a holiday, the way that the oatmeal writes about it, which I just told you to go and look up, talks about how the Knights of Columbus pressured Roosevelt to create it as a national holiday. And that's true, but that's not where it started. 1891, in New Orleans, 11 Italian immigrants were lynched. And in celebration of the 400th anniversary of Columbus landing, President Benjamin Harrison said, let's make it a holiday. But, once, right? Just to kind of, I don't know, mea culpa. Like, I'm not even sure why. I'm not even sure what the thinking was, because nobody was ever caught. Nobody was ever brought to justice for lynching these 11 Italian immigrants. Yeah, I forgot that lynching people was such a big, important deal that we should have always been paying attention to, that we should definitely celebrate. And we should definitely have a holiday for all the times people were lynched in this country and nobody was brought to justice. I'm trying to put on my sarcastic voice because if you're unfamiliar with the history of lynching in this country, it was pretty popular. People used to show up on Sundays and bring their kids to watch black men get hung from trees. So this idea that we have to have a holiday celebrating a genocidal sociopath slave trader to make up for other people being atrociously murdered also seems really weird to me. Is Columbus the best thing that Italy had coming out of it? Is he their finest example? Because that can't possibly be true. So Lou D'Alessandro, I'm going to read at least part of his quote from the article, but he says they can have Indigenous Peoples Day, but they can't substitute for an existing holiday. He goes on, I'm of Italian-American lineage, and I think the reason for Columbus Day was declared by a president of the United States, because of the atrocity committed in the New Orleans. God, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know who edited this article, but either Lou was having a stroke when he was talking and they took it word for word, or nobody bothered to check this. I'm of Italian-American lineage. The reason for Columbus Day was declared by a president of the U.S. because of the atrocity committed in New Orleans with Italians hung for no reason. No one was ever charged with a crime. No one was ever convicted. This was President Harrison's way of making due for an atrocity that was committed, and he created Columbus Day. I think we should keep it. Right. So, again, that was meant to be a one-off, and then the Knights of Columbus pushed FDR to make it a permanent holiday. It's so strange to me, the logic on this one, the logic on Columbus Day, because, again, Like your excuse, your reasoning for wanting to enforce the naming of the holiday because of an atrocity, ignoring the atrocities of the guy you're trying to celebrate. That's just baffling to me. I will read out a quote from Linnea Nemeth, who was a city councilor in Dover. She voted no because she disagrees with the law. She says the bill appears to be nothing more than an anti-DEI initiative, forcing cities and communities to pull back from the considered progress made over the last few years. New Hampshire has a history of being behind in adopting the birthday-related holidays, with Martin Luther King Jr. Day only made a state holiday in 2000. I have to look this up. But MLK, I thought initially, at least in New Hampshire, it was Civil Rights Day. And then it just became Martin Luther King Jr. Day, thanks to Jeanne Shaheen, I believe. I think she was governor then. And I didn't understand that when I was, in my 20s. Because Martin Luther King was pushing for civil rights, not for, worshiping him or looking to him. He wanted everybody to be equal. Equanimity, not even equality, equanimity. Because as already discussed, Lincoln freed the slaves, but he did not want them to be equal to the whites. So, you guys are free, but you get nothing, right? So it was just something that confused me that I'll have to look up. I mean, I may comment on it during MLK Day, which sounds like I'm trying to pick a fight. I'm not. I'm just confused. We're going from, the victimizer to the victims back to the victimizer. It's just ridiculous to me. So, look, this is my third time trying to record this. It's 4:30. I should try and attempt to get more sleep, but I hope I'm not overthinking this. I mean, I probably am. Let's be honest. Who cares about a holiday? But I think it just goes back to the core of what it is that we're talking about. We're celebrating genocide because he was Italian, right? That's what they wanted an Italian to look up to, for their kids to look up to be a hero. Could they not have picked someone else? That's all I'm saying, I guess. Anyway, I hope you all have a fine day, and I'm hoping to get back to some more educational, informative discussions. Just this holiday bugs me. Bye.